Hello. So I'm trying to figure this out on Instagram too, and I don't know if that's happening today, but ah, let's see. Okay, we're gonna go for it. Hey everybody, happy Sunday. It has been forever since I have done a live video of this type. And so one of the things that I do every single Sunday is I send out a newsletter called the Sunday Reset. And this newsletter is really all about having a moment, kind of reclaiming a moment for yourself in your weekend that is just for you, where maybe you reflect, you think about what you want to do in the upcoming week. Maybe you are releasing and letting go of the things that have bubbled up for you over the past week, but it's just really a moment to kind of like have a sit down and say, okay, this is literally all about me. And so each Sunday, I send out this newsletter, and it is such a joy to send it out and to have a moment where I actually record my thoughts, have that creative space for myself. And so one of the things that I have been thinking about as I send out, the newsletter is that I always feel like after I send it out, I have additional things that I want to say, or there's more context that I want to give, there's more interaction that I want to have because when you're writing something and once it's out there into the world, people always send me emails to tell me how my words landed with them, which I absolutely love. But I've thought to myself, what would it look like for me to actually create a space, and have that conversation in real time, or to catch it on the replay, have the conversation in that moment as well. And so I wanted to challenge myself to do that. And really, as we go into 2025, challenge myself to get back to doing something that I really love to do, which is create live videos. So here I am today. This is the first one I've done in a while. If you're catching this live, hello. Thank you for spending some Sunday time with me. And if you're catching this on a replay, let's go. I'm happy to spend time with you as well. So, today, my newsletter I sent out to everyone, I wrote about, and the idea for this was really around how do we get excited for 2025, especially if you have had a really rough 2024. So, if you're catching me right now and you're new to what has been a rough year for me, let me tell you, 2024 has been a rough year. And one of the things that I wrote about was really kind of honoring the journey that has been 2024 and not wanting to call it a bad year because, we get into that space where we're like, oh God, this year was really bad. And sometimes the year is really bad. But I don't know if every year is totally bad, but I would say there have been some challenging things that have happened this year. So I started my year in London. I was in England with my boyfriend at the time. We broke up in March. And so that became a big challenge for me in terms of when I was thrust into this transitional period. So not only just going through a breakup, which is hard, even if you are in the same country, but this big transitional period where this suddenly had to really move me forward in ways that I hadn't necessarily anticipated or wanted, or, now it was like, okay, we are refreshing our life and I have no choice. So I've just got to get with it and get on, as the British would say. And so that really, if I allowed it to, that was going to set the tone for my 2024. So I would say that I had to challenge myself to not let that set the tone, to not let that be the main story of 2024, although it was a huge one, but to let it be in the background and kind of be this thing that propelled me forward, um, and really embrace where I am now, which I think, if we're talking about how do you let go of what has been a challenging year, how do you step into a new year wanting to have a sense of joy, even when the challenges, it's not like we just rip off the calendar page and suddenly you're a brand new you, right? That doesn't happen. But you can go into the new year with a new mindset and an awareness that you want a new mindset for you. So I have little notes here because I don't want to go too far off track and on a tangent, which, I have ADHD, is very possible. Anyway, so one of the things I've had to ask myself is, am I trying to get back to an earlier version of me? Like, or am I moving myself forward? And the answer to that is I'm moving myself forward. And what we have to do as we go into this new year and we're evaluating, because of course before you move into the new you have to look at the old, is say, well, what stories no longer serve me? What are the stories that I do not want to take into 2025 with me, and how can I be really intentional about that? This is a question that I kind of deal with all the time. If you don't know, now you're going to know. I am also a career coach. I coach people in that mid career space, lots of millennials, people who are like finding themselves at the fork in the road, and all of these questions are coming up. And so I talk a lot about what are the stories that you need to leave behind. So it might be stories that are happening in the career space for you. It might be personal stories. Maybe you went through a breakup this year. Shout out to all my people who are watching this who went through a breakup. What is the story that you need to leave behind? Because that is within your control. And I think a big part of moving yourself forward as we look into this new year is thinking about where are the spaces where you do have control to move yourself forward, where are the spaces where you do have the ability to change the page. Because I know sometimes when bad things are happening and they aren't things we asked for and they do feel very out of our control, we do have to have that moment and remind ourselves of what is in our control and what we really want to do about it. And so, speaking of things that are in your control, optimism and joy. As I go into 2025, going into a big year, I'm about to turn 40 years old, which I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe I'm about to be 40, but at the same time, I'm excited, right? Um, Choosing optimism and joy, wanting to lean into being joyful and being excited, and making sure that that's something that maybe I just have to tell myself that, I want to be optimistic. I want to be joyful, that this is what we are going into the year with. So every year I usually do a word of the year, my WODY, and I haven't chosen my word of the year yet for 2025, but maybe optimism or joy will be one of my words. If you're catching this live, hello, hello. Tell me what will be your word of the year. Maybe we'll do a whole episode about that. But for now, let's ponder on it, right? So the last thing I'll leave you all with before I have to log off and go get something that I bought on Facebook Marketplace, which I could also do an episode about that. See, that's what I meant about tangents. Setting the intentions for 2025. We want to be intentional going into 2025. We want to be intentional about the stories that we're carrying. We want to be intentional about the optimism and the joy, because we also know like there's so many things happening in the world, and I could sit here all day and we could really have a conversation about that we know choosing optimism and joy and finding spaces where we find those things, or we are intentional about bringing them into our life, is going to be very important in what we do for 2025. So, yeah, those are my things. This year has been challenging. We're not going to say it was a totally bad year. A lot of good things have happened as well in 2024. But there are stories that I want to leave behind, that just don't get to be. I'm deciding it's not coming with me in 2025. We're just not going to do it. And I'm so glad that you got to spend the time with me today to also have this moment for us on this Sunday to reflect and to say we are setting ourselves up for an optimistic and joyful 2025. Once again, thank you so much. If you caught me live and you're hanging with me live, I appreciate you. Um, my goal is to do this every Sunday. That's my goal. And we'll see how it goes and where it goes. But I absolutely want to go into 2025 doing the things that I love to do. So here we go. Anyway, if you don't get my newsletter, sign up. I don't know. I should post it as a comment. Next time I'll be ready. But if you go over to my website, really either one, Amber Career Studio, which is where I coach, and then I also have the fablifeproject.com, which is where I blog. You will be able to sign up for the Sunday reset. I want you to get this newsletter. I want us to have our reset moment. Get your tea. I have my tea behind me, but I don't want to make like noises on camera. That's not cool. Get your tea. Come hang out with me on Sundays and let's get into it. All right. Have a lovely rest of your weekend. I will see you all later. Bye.